Welcome to Life After, a podcast for women to take you from feeling like you're just surviving to thriving, to creating a life you really love. Expect to discover tips and tricks to get there. Each episode will have actionable steps to empower you to make changes. I started this podcast because I've been through it all, from getting out of a marriage with a narcissist to completely rebuilding my life. And now I'm on a mission to help you too. You can change your life. It's absolutely possible. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Socrates. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Maya Angelou. I am a woman who has learned repeatedly that while rock bottom feels like the end, it's always the beginning of something. Glennon Doyle. If you don't like the road you're walking, start paving another one. Dolly Parton. In this episode, we are going to talk about how sometimes life gives you exactly what you've been asking for, but not at all in the way expected. What happens when life pushes you forward before you feel ready, and how those moments can actually bring the greatest freedom, and how to manage those inevitable transitions that stem from all of that. I just left a job. Actually, it's the second job in a row with a toxic boss. And maybe it seems like there are just more toxic people out there these days. Or maybe it's because I've made it my life's work to help others heal from toxic relationships. So, of course, I've had many of my own to learn from, gain experience, and dare I say, also get some wisdom. But here's what's really interesting. This time, I handled it differently. The last time it happened, less than a year ago, I was completely thrown off. I felt blindsided, emotional, and confused. But this time, I felt more grounded, more calm, more sure of my next steps. I responded with clarity instead of chaos. I felt so much more grounded and really was able to take the time to focus on what my next steps would be. Now, maybe this is because I'd been clearly asking the universe for more time, more freedom, and more alignment in my life. And boy, did the universe deliver. Suddenly, there it was. It's funny how that happens, right? We ask for expansion, but when it comes, it can feel uncomfortable. And at first, it felt really scary. But now, it just feels right. I now have the time to build what I've been dreaming of. And for the first time, I'm doing it with much less fear. Notice how I say no fear? That I'm not doing it without any fear? That's because there's always fear. So don't let that stop you. Here's part of what this last transition has taught me. We get to ask for what we want. It's okay to do that. It's also okay to take a risk, especially when we feel pulled or called to do something. We should lean in. Take the leap, make the jump, plan for that risk as best you can, and then really go for it. This is so important, so I'm going to say it again. This transition, unlike many of the ones before it, and oh, there had been many before it, this transition has taught me that it's okay to ask for what you want. It's okay to take a leap before you know how it's all going to turn out. You can trust yourself to land on your feet. These statements should become our mantras while leaving or healing from a toxic relationship of any kind. Sometimes life just doesn't wait for us to be ready. It nudges or completely shoves us towards something new. Leaving this job was not the first time I've walked away from a situation that didn't serve me. This time, though, I handled it differently. I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared all of the time. I really felt more ready. And that's why it's so important to talk about this. What happens when we finally trust the process, even when it doesn't look like what we've planned? Having faith and trust is key because the same patterns tend to show up in our lives until we work through it in really a new and quote unquote better way. I've had a long list of narcissists show up in my life, and they've always been a little bit different. It's so easy to run across a narcissist in your everyday life, especially one that's outside of your spouse or your partner. If you're in a relationship, an intimate partner relationship with one, they can be a boss, like my last two experiences, or a coworker, a family member or friend, a neighbor, or even someone you volunteer with. Thankfully, we now have the language and are talking openly about what a toxic personality looks like. You may not be able to avoid them completely, but man, oh man, do we have tools now to deal with them. This last toxic boss showed me that I can break the pattern. We can break the patterns because if I can break the patterns that are so deeply ingrained from a lifetime of narcissists, so can you. Looking back, both of those jobs taught me something different about myself. In fact, I can trace a line from my first narcissist to this last toxic boss. So this might seem like a strange segue, but stay with me. Does anyone ever have really vivid dreams? I find that if I write them down right after I wake up, I can capture more of the detail and emotion in the dream. Then, I had a friend tell me this recently, and I'm so glad she did. I drop what I've written into ChatGPT and I ask it to interpret it for me. Now, this is not scientific, and I'm sure anyone listening that has way more experience in dream analysis than I could ever imagine having would blanch at this suggestion. But it's really in depth, and I kind of like it, the interpretation. So I had a dream recently about packing up my whole life in boxes. Everything had to be ready and packed and moved in 48 hours. So you can imagine in my dream the urgency that I felt. This is exactly what transitions feel like, though, right? You start sorting through everything. You realize some stuff gets to stay, but a whole bunch of it gets to go. And somehow it all gets done. And it all gets done in the right way for you. With ChatGPT's interpretation of this specific dream, it also showed me how we can move forward from toxic relationships and step into our own peace. This is, in part, what healing looks like: sorting through it all, keeping what works for us, and leaving the rest. Leaving the rest is one way we break those ingrained patterns. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. And after the break, we're going to talk about how this really applies to you. Are you finding yourself struggling in a relationship and wondering if you're dealing with a narcissist? You're not alone, and I've got a resource that can help. Get my 5 questions to confirm you're not the problem. This helps you identify the emotions associated with being in a controlling relationship. Just head over to locatecoaching.com/5 questions. That's locatecoaching.com/5 questions. And take the first step toward clarity and confidence in your relationships. Welcome back. Oh my goodness. The first part of this episode was all about me. So now let's transition into what this means for you. What transition might you be going through or are struggling to move forward or through? If you're going through your own transition right now, transition of any kind, if life has handed you change that you didn't ask for but maybe needed, I want you to remember this. This is your time, and you deserve to get everything you want in your life. Maybe that's another mantra to remember. I deserve to get everything I want in my life. If you're in a place right now that feels toxic or confusing or like it's shrinking you, because that's what narcissists do, is they make you feel like a smaller, shrinking version of yourself, you are allowed to leave. You are allowed to start over, and to start maybe not over, but from exactly where you are. Exactly where you are is the perfect place to start from. You're also allowed to believe that what's next, what's coming, can be and so often is better. I know this is so often easier said than done. Leaving is so much easier to say you're going to do than do. And there are definitely situations we can't always leave, practically or logistically. When that's the case, you can still leave what doesn't work for you. This will cause a shift with whatever toxic personality you're dealing with. And know that you got to work through those consequences. When we do that, though, we signal to our bodies, our brains, our whole selves, and we signal to others that change is okay. Taking these steps, acknowledging this, working through those pattern interrupts will ultimately lead to that transition that's best for you. This is why that statement, it's one of my favorite statements. And I use it again, I come back to it again and again and again. And you guys have heard me say it how many times? It's so meaningful. Change one thing and the whole thing changes. Heraclitus. An old philosopher said that. When we make a shift, the other party in this toxic dynamic is forced to shift as well. Now, knowing in advance that they're not going to like that allows us to plan for the inevitable dust-ups that are going to occur. They are different in every situation. This is the strategy of leaving a narcissist. So let me know if this topic is something you'd like to delve in further, because we definitely can. Definitely do a future episode. Here's some questions to ask yourself to help ease the process of healthily, is that a word? Moving away from your toxic person. Where are you staying small to stay safe? This one is, I find, really showed up for me with toxic bosses. What have you been asking for? And could this discomfort be how it's arising? Right? That's exactly what I described in the first part of the episode. I'd been asking the universe and my life for more time and more freedom, more ability to work on those things that are so important to me, that are my purpose. And so it showed up in the form of a toxic boss, right on the heels of another toxic boss, which helped me to see the patterns so much more clearly and make a decision about how I wanted to move through them. So when you have something like this show up in your life, how your discomfort is arriving, it often is a door into a new life for us. Open the door and walk through. The last question is, if you could choose peace instead of fear today, what would that look like? As you think about all of these questions, take a breath, really breathe. Deep breaths. And remind yourself, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next step. And it can be a baby step. It doesn't have to be leaving a job like I did. It can just be a baby step. Transitions don't mean we failed. They mean we're being invited to expand. Growth doesn't always feel good. I'm sorry to say that. The change, though, definitely leads you closer to who you're meant to be, who you want to be. And what's that old saying about you can't be growing and comfortable at the same time? That really applies in these situations. So keep that kind of top of mind. This week, or in the next couple of weeks, I really want to challenge and invite you to do one thing that honors the person you're becoming. Maybe that's setting a boundary. Maybe it's resting. Maybe it's saying no when needed. Remember, no is a complete sentence. For those of you that have trouble with that, we've got some strategies around how to make it easier too. Or saying yes to something new. Whatever it is, make it intentional. Think about it. Plan for it. Make it yours. Because this, right now, is where your next chapter begins. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to meet you for a Path to Thriving session. This is something I have a goal to give away 90 free 30-minute coaching conversations in the next 3 months. So this free session could help you see what's next for you. You can book it through the link in the show notes. You got this. One thought, one choice, one action at a time. This podcast is a valuable resource for anyone seeking to make meaningful changes in their life. I'm here to support you on your unique journey, offering guidance and encouragement every step of the way. There will be new episodes on the second and fourth Wednesday every month. Please follow on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss any episodes. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode on how to successfully move through a transition in your life. Remember, you have a choice about how your next transition will go. Lean in, take the leap, make the jump, and go for it. As we wrap up, here's the thing. I've made every mistake. I've literally been there and done that. It's one step at a time, and you'll get there. There's hope. You've got this. If you're struggling in a relationship and wondering if it might be controlling, you're not alone. Download my free PDF at locatecoaching.com/free gift to help you find clarity and confidence. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon.